League of Women Voters, and I appreciate you all being here. Let me say, to start with, that League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan, not-for-profit volunteer organization that works to register voters and to increase public participation in civic life. I want to say that after today's event, the next event that we're hosting is on Thursday evening, April the 9th, where we will have a presentation on the proposed constitutional amendment on the August 4th primary ballot, which would change our selection of Supreme Court justices to an election rather than a merit selection process. And we have a speaker, Nicole Revenant, from the Kansans United for Impartial Courts. She'll be speaking at the big new room at Salina Tech. But for today, we have Jane Anderson, who is the Executive Director of Friends of the River on the big Smoky Hill River renovation project. I always like to say that Jane Anderson was a theater and English major at Marymount College. And so what can you do with a theater degree? Well, you can work on river projects. She also has worked for Kansas Wesleyan and Bethany and Country Club. But for now, let's welcome Jane Anderson. Thank you.
I don't usually wear a mic, but you don't have to be scared of me. I have allergies, and my voice is just the best. So can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm trying to so I don't lose it. Usually I'm big and boisterous, and so a little bit knocked down. Thanks for having me. We're very excited to talk about this project. I'm going to speak to being a creative person. I was theater and English. My dad always asked, "What are you going to do with that, Jane?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I'll figure that out later." I will say, your grandkids or whoever are trying to be in the arts, it's a great training for the workforce. I learned to work in groups. I learned to work hard. I had to hit deadlines. I was in front of a crowd constantly. Those are very unique situations that actually a lot of business majors don't get those opportunities. I was well prepared to be in the front of crowds and people relationships. And so I'm very grateful to what I learned in theater and English. It was a broad-based learning, and the sisters, wasn't just the sisters, but the sisters were really hard. And I'm not Catholic, but I learned to have a huge respect for what they offered. So, education can go many directions, and you can use your skill sets in many different kinds of businesses. And that's exactly what's happened for me. So, probably wondering about this project, is it ever going to happen, and how much does it cost? Martha Tasker, you may have seen pieces of this one before, but she did this is a really great, better than the ones I had made. I'm using hers, and she's fine with that. Just to let you know, this has really been something that's been a partnership with the City of Salina since '06. So this has been going on a long time. We still have a founder on our board, Brad Stewie. He's the only one that was in the very beginning, but he's hung in there, come in and out of the board, and still hanging in there and waiting for this project to get started. So it is a project that's being overseen by the city, and it is a city project. Just to let you know, it is not a Friends project. We're the advocates for this riverway. Without the Friends, this would not have happened, but it is a city project. You have HDR, that's the company that was hired to oversee the engineering and the designs of the riverway. Cobb Valley, they've been using for a lot in this process. And so just so you know, there is a lot of local money already being spent, and through Cobb Valley, and there'll be others. So here we go. Okay, we're just going to do a quick little overview. This is low. There's been more than this now, but this sales tax passed in 2016, and that was the big deal. Sorry, that we knew we had to pass that for this to have any way to move forward. So there was they had tried to pass it 10, they did fail, that vote failed. They learned a lot from that. And then we also had someone help us run a grassroots effort. That made a huge difference. And I also think people are ready for it. We talked about it in the right way. We talked about we wanted a flowing river and hopefully some trails. And we cut it way back from all the conceptual designs that overwhelm people. So that's why she has some of this in here. We've had so many public meetings, it's unreal. And they also developed a master plan that was completed in 2010. And when this tax was passed in 16, when HDR first got here, they called it updoing the master plan because it had been years. The downtown was taking off. And so it really opened the door that it actually needed some uplift. And so we had a huge steering committee. There was 30-some people that freaked out HDR because they thought we'd be fighting. This is the interesting thing about this community. There was no fighting. There was a lot of give and take, and actually people learned this town is incredible about getting along and finding ways to compromise. This is what this has taught me. This thing has really taught me that this community still knows how to talk to each other. It's so important because this is the kind of thing you have to get out in public. Okay, this is just showing, this was surveyed many times, and this is really what people want. We thought it was kind of funny, and HDR did too, that really what people wanted was water. Good old Midwesterners are very practical. It wasn't like a lot of fluffy stuff, just wanted a river. And so I just love that one. This has been, the thing you see next is trails. Over and over again, this has always come to the top. This has also been in the top of the Parks and Recreation, did a master plan a few years ago. And if you think about all the parks, recreation, sporting, all the programming they do, this is what came up to the very top of what people want. So we know we're right about trying to give people trails. And then you can see they want trailheads and kayaking and renewals, fishing, and all the things that come along with the riverway. These are all things that have really been considered when we've been looking at designs and what does that actually mean for this community. You can stop me anytime. I'll try not to take too long though. I'm so gross. I apologize. This is grossing me out almost. So anyway, the local sales tax, it actually, what she's showing here is how much they get to use on the riverway itself. She's actually spent some more millions just doing the engineering. I think she doesn't show that because she gets some grief sometimes. But she's been really right. And I'm talking about the project manager, Martha Tasker, who has been overseeing this project from the very beginning. And she did something that she told me she spent extra dollars, and she had the whole river engineer, not just the parts we thought we were going to get to do. By doing that, that's allowed us to expand what we ever thought we could do. So it was really smart to do pre-plan. So, did I get all that? Okay, so this is the Corps of Engineers. The Corps of Engineers is out of the Army. We started a relationship with them right after this passed. HDR had a relationship with Corps. They brought in a troop. They've been really wanting to do this project. But you have to understand, this is federal government, and that's why this has all been so slow. It is just the truth. The Corps goes through these processes, and if you don't like it, you better just go do something else, because you're not going to change it. And so this program we're in is 65-35, meaning they pay 65%, the city pays 35%. It's a great deal. It could be up to $14 million. So you see why we've been playing around with the federal government. It makes sense once you start being involved with this project. And then the RACE grant, that's out of another federal granting program out of the transportation, federal transportation. We wrote it for $25 million. We did hire Fed specialists. We had a donor that helped pay. They cost $60,000 to have these specialists. The city paid for half, we paid for half. Best thing we ever did. These guys know what they're doing. We had a big team though. I did some of the writing on it because they don't know the story of the place. Even so, they knew how to put it together. It's super complicated, very competitive. When we were finished, I thought, gosh, this is fabulous. It looks great. It's huge thing. And the head guy goes, well, unless you get someone to help you at the federal level, you're finished. Even if you score well, because they score these and a bunch of them get kicked out. You get scored, your grant. And I thought, you're kidding. Well, I'm not surprised by this. So luckily we had a really good relationship with Senator Jerry Moran, and he has seriously helped us all the way through all this. So without his support at that level, even though I know that we had to have scored really well, I know that it had to be overseen by specialists, all of it, I know that we had done the engineering they needed. What I realized about federal dollars, you have to have all the pieces, not just one part, all of it. And so he was our final piece. So we did get 22 million, anyhow. So it was a very competitive, only 10% get it. It was a long shot, truthfully. And then I learned later, first timers hardly ever get it. So we were really, really fortunate. And it's changed everything on what we get to do on the Riverway. So you can see again why we've waited, because these kind of big boy things are not, they're not fast. I just tell you that. It takes a year and a half to get a contract. And that's bizarre. Okay, so we're going to talk about money. I changed some of this because we're in a campaign ourselves. So this is what she's talking about. This is from sales tax. Now, we know actually when the raised grant, when they came back with a contract, they asked the question, are you going to do what you said you're going to do? And that means, are you doing the project? We're not fully funding it. Are you going to finish the project? Does that make sense? The raised grant project with that river. And so finding out, and also some of this, they have to have a match with the Corps. And there's other stuff besides that stuff that we're trying to do outside of both of those things. So we're short dollars. This is where the rest of the city dollars will come from to get to 29 million. And then you start seeing what's going on. The Friends of the River, we made a pledge that we would raise 4.1 million. And honestly, it's like, oh gosh, we can do that. Because it's a lot. And we've been in a campaign, a silent, we're not public yet, but I'm sharing this with you. We've already raised 6.5. We're very grateful. The generosity of the community has been incredible, but it's also proved to me the support of the community is most certainly there. So we've outdone what we thought we could do, and we're not finished. So we're hoping what we've done, sounds like, gosh, you got a lot of money, what do you need more for? Well, once you start getting into this kind of project, it's really expensive. So we're trying to add pieces that we're still missing. So even with Raise Grant Corps, sales tax dollars, we are missing pieces of the project that we personally feel is really important, and that's why we're continuing with fundraising. We hope we'll be finished in the summer. This will go public in April, so or May, and sometime this summer we'll be shutting down. So you can see,
Jane, what
yes.
are the pieces that you're adding?
Why don't I get into that in a minute, and I will show you with the map. I think it'll be easier, but we're trying that. So you can see, here's your, first I'd like to say thank you so much for your city tax dollars. We really appreciate it. This would never have happened. You never get the raise grant, you never have the Corps without it. This has been your foundation. But then you start seeing what's really happening. So you start seeing you're given 41%, and then all of a sudden you start seeing we've really leveraged those dollars. So thank you so much. We've tried our best to leverage every piece that's been given. This has not been a wasteful project. We've tried to make the best of what we have. So then you start seeing, this is something I never thought we'd ever reach, not in a million years. So we've been so happy that we're over 71 million. And it still means we're not getting to do the whole thing, but we're gonna have a really nice project. Okay, this is timeline. I think this is what this is. Yeah, this is kind of, I'll make it easier than this, but this kind of gives you oversight of who's doing what. The raise grant, you have to bid all the project out at one time. That's why you have seating construction. You don't get to do just pieces of it. Like for example, we're going to start with bridges, but you can't bid those out. You bid out all of the project. I'm talking about the raise grant, or that's the federal project. Then the Corps, it has its own timeline, and it's just who they are. They go through their little feasibility, and then they'll be doing design. They're through their study, and they should be working. Getting here, that's what we're hoping to finish designing. Engineering is what I'm really talking about. So construction on this big old baby should start 27, that's what we're hoping. And it will be finished sometime in 2030. Although the deadline, the cool thing about the feds, they've had bridges to nowhere, that's why they ask you to do what you're supposed to here. That's why they say there's not a match with the raise grant. Well, there most certainly is. They require you to do what you said you're going to. Does that make sense? So their deadline is 2031 or you're done. You don't get your money. So you have to get it finished. This is great because we need a timeline to be done. And the Corps is kind of coming around the bend that they should be finished too. So it's coming around pretty well actually for all the content. Remember we're talking about transportation. So a federal transportation grant is about people and moving and things moving. So you can see we have lots of bridges and then we have some pedestrian trails, not all of it, just a piece of it. And then there's lightings on the trails, which is fabulous because we didn't have anything for that. And then there's these underpasses at both South Ohio and North Ohio, which is for pedestrians. So we'll link the trails with the trails on the levee system, so when it's all said and done, and safety issues, kids can go under instead of trying to cross Ohio, which is thrilling. Have you ever tried to do that? You're taking your life in your hands. And so it's going to be way safer, as well as connection. This is really about connecting. They consider trails roadways if they're done appropriately. And so there'll be about 30 miles of trails in and around Salina. Remember, what was the number one thing that people in Salina want?
Water.
What was that?
Water.
Yeah, but to oh, fabulous. So, you see, we're listening. We are really listening to what people want. This is really a community project. Why do you need these many bridges? Well, it's fabulous because elm, ash, and iron are not big enough to run a river. They're just these little tiny box bridges, not appropriate. This one was actually not built correctly. This one over here is a big box bridge that's going to change out. It's completely silted in because our biggest problem is silt, not poisons, but silt. So this one, we knew we had to have all this. And so they asked for other bridges because without opening up to slab bridges, there would be no boating on this riverway. So this is about transportation on the waterway also. Does that make sense? Why do we get more bridges? Okay. Okay, so why do we have a picture of the downtown? Because the Art Deco, do you know what I mean by Art Deco? These cool things are a part. It's for a starlight architecture, I think it was in the 1920s. And we've had people tell us this, our downtown has some of the best Art Deco they've ever seen, as well as the Spanish Revival. But the Art Deco is going to be included on the Riverway also in parts of it that are more urban areas. So this was all done by citizens. This has not been done by someone that lives out of town. We had artists and designers, but they listened to what the citizens wanted. So you can see this is the inspiration for the downtown urban areas of your riverway. So I wanted to show you some of this. This is also showing, obviously this has become a very town that has lots of artwork. And so that also has been an inspiration for the future of the riverway. So here's what happened. We did have it's called a study committee. It doesn't mean they're picking art. It means they're deciding what it's gonna, an homage to what is it gonna look like. It doesn't mean they're deciding what the artist is gonna paint on the mural. So that's not what that means, okay? But this aesthetic committee helped give ideas on what they were hoping. And so this is what came out of it. So you can see this is there'll be a bridge out at Lakewood because they're going to connect the lake with the river again. But out at Lakewood, you're gonna have these real natural things, and this is bluestem grass. That'll be the back of the benches as well as your rails. All your rails on these bridges will be cut out metal like the downtown overhangs. That makes sense? But they'll all be different and unique to where they're sitting. Each bridge will have its own character. And so when it really came down to it, we had 3 separate regions that we called Lakewood, Supernatural, and then you have neighborhood and city parks that were another region. This is about aesthetics on what it's going to look like. That's what I'm talking about now, so that makes sense. And then this is your downtown, your super urban area. Does that make sense? And so you can see Lakewood, we're gonna have these little, I call them pocket patios that we're gonna have in some of these hills. These are the types of flooring in that area. Where this would be, this is an homage to the 1930s rock benches. Do you know what I'm talking about? And so they brought in stone wood, and then this is your downtown area. This became really critical for the bridges and stuff. And I'll show you some of that. You're interested? This is a cement slab bridge that is now over on, is that Greeley? It's over by True Value, over by the fairgrounds. This is a type of bridge, and the reason these cement slab bridges were picked because Kansas builds those well. So hopefully a lot of this will go to some Kansas bridge builder. Does that make sense? And so this bridge is a miracle because they could have put in a little box, but because the master plan had been finished, they put in a real bridge like a river was actually going to run. So this saved you millions of dollars by just having a master plan and a view for the future. That's why master plans are really important, and it gives people a vision of what's next. So even though the river was a long shot, this became a bridge that we could boat under and actually eventually have a trail under possibly. Okay, so bridge locations, people have been a little confused. Lakewood is the one that confuses people the most. You know that little road, you stop and you look down and you'll see, oh my gosh, there's a big ditch, I never noticed it. That's where that bridge I just showed you will go. Does that make sense? Because this is going to connect into this lake. This used to be connected in the 1970s. This lake will be about 8 feet deeper. It'll be a way better fishing lake. It'll be a way better, and there's going to be some boat trails or whatever. And it's going to be a water marsh, because a water marsh cleans water and also an uplift to the environment, so to the fish life, etc. So these are your urban bridges, right in here. Ash elm. These will be designed Art Deco-ish. And then these two bridges are the neighborhood. You probably don't even think about it. Midway is going to have a beautiful bridge, and the Y, which are driving over these little tiny box bridges, but they'll be beautiful bridges. And then this will be a box, so that, it doesn't really matter. So these are what happened when the pedestrian bridges were picked. This is what will go out at Lakewood. There'll be 2 pedestrian bridges out there, one to connect to the trail that goes clear out to the dike. And then, and you can see the limestones coming back into that little, call it welcoming seating. And then what they did do, they decided, the study committee, they'd like to stay in sort of the style that's already in Hotel Park, the rusted metal look. And so most of the pedestrian bridges will have some look like that, only its own little bit looks. Is that any questions on that? It's just, you can stop me if I'm not making sense. Okay, this is just showing the Lakewood Bridge again and the homage to that area. And then this one is, remember Elm Street is homage to Art Deco. So this is not the same design that you see on the overhangs of downtown, but it's still in the idea of Art Deco. So it has its own look and its own, and then there'll be some brickwork. And this, if you notice, is what you see on the sidewalks. Does that make sense? If you've ever noticed downtown, they have little Art Deco sidewalks now too. So hopefully that this is not the Iron Avenue Bridge, so we're skipping this. It will have cut metal all the way across. It'll be the most expensive bridge, and I'm going to change that out, sorry. So this is Midway. Remember the stone, kind of homage to the stone of the 1930s. So you can see it's a whole different look. But they all have a family of, still cement slab bridge, cut metal, so that will go well together, but it's going to create some uniqueness and not be so boring. These are those underpasses I was talking about. This is the North Ohio. The river's running next to it, and there you can run through. The one on North Ohio, actually, this is South Ohio, actually, not North Ohio. The North Ohio one, let's just say you had a huge rain of 8 inches. This actually, North Ohio could run water if it needed to get her out of the community quicker. So it's also a flood control helper. Okay. Okay, so when, when we were talking to community, everybody 100%, they wanted the downtown to put our most effort in that region to try to help the downtown. 100%, I mean, we know we're doing what people want. And that's about, okay, this is kind of showing you 4th Street. This was probably, this has been before the car museum, or that is a car museum. And then, anyway, so what's going to happen in that area, this is the car museum. They actually use this concept for their building. That's kind of funny. They asked if they could use it. This is where the plaza is going to go. It hasn't been designed out yet. And this is called a boardwalk. A boardwalk is not made of boards, it'll be concrete. It will be stained to look like boards, possibly. The boardwalk is only going to be in that urban area. It will probably, right now we have enough to go from 4th Street to 3rd Street, which no one knows where 3rd Street is. But that's one of the projects we're trying to extend. We're trying to extend the boardwalk from 3rd Street to Walnut Street. So I'll just tell you what that costs, $2 million. So boardwalks are really expensive because we're building walls. Whenever you build walls, you just go cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. So instead of a earth side, you have a rock wall. Does that make sense, or whatever they call about it? So anyway, those are fun. This will be where you can really get close to the waterway. And this is like a little area you can have little music acts. Let me show you a couple other rendering. This is showing in the race grant. 4th Street is called a mixed use space, which means it's going to be really made to look beautiful. This is where the plaza is going. So that's going to be on the race grant. A mixed use space means it can be closed down for a party with people. Yes, we know there's a railroad going through there, and it's only used like so rarely. Of course, you have to schedule around their schedule, but it's hardly being used, so it will be a mixed-use space. And what that also means, there won't be curbs, so this plaza actually becomes way bigger when it needs to. And there'll be, I can't remember what you call those things, ballers they can take in and out to close the street down. Okay. So this is just showing another view of that street. It's not real pretty, but it kind of shows you, it's showing the ballers. This is another view. This is 4th Street showing the plaza area, how it's interconnected. The reason, and these planter boxes are there somewhat for safety to keep cars, because there's no curbs. So these also are actually a safety feature, keep cars from driving up accidentally onto any of this area. Okay, this is one we had done to just show that it could be, pretty, not so plain like that. Showed a staircase down to the boardwalk, and then this plaza area. And this is another one that kind of shows, oh, this could be really fun, And so we hope there'll be a fountain there, and when I mean a fountain, it would be one of those veneer fountains that are, kids can play in it, because it's so shallow you can't drown. Yes?
You showed a staircase, but is there also a ramp?
Yes, these are going to be, they will be, what am I trying to say? Yeah,
Accessible?
yeah. I don't know where those are.
Okay.
That is part of the process, but I can't really tell you where that is or any of that. I think they're over by the bridge, but I'm not positive. Okay. Okay. This is also, we did get some money. Remember, we're talking about transportation. Transportation is considered on the waterway also. So when you talk about federal transportation dollars, that's just not cars. It's also, so we've got some help for 4 kayak launches, and I'll show this on a map later. And this is just showing what that means. You can slide your kayak down at this level. You guys ever used those before? They're cool. And it helps you be able to get in and out. It won't necessarily look like this. These are just photos. So where would those go? One will be out at Lakewood. This will be accessible. I don't know exactly how that works. And then there'll be one, there's a little tiny park on Riverside. You guys ever been there? Sure. This park is suddenly super important. It will have a boat drop there. And I've heard the parks are putting in for the future that have a bathroom, which would be wonderful. We don't have any money for that. But that's just part of what we can and cannot do. We've had to make choices. There'll be a boat drop in Oakdale Park. There'll be a maintenance building that came with this race grant. And it's over on the edge of Oakdale, that shady area. Hopefully they take almost no trees down. Right by the fencing. Does that make sense? And then there'll be one at the YMCA, which is a great place for it. You say the river goes on, and I can tell you why we decided not to. The neighbors, we were gonna have one in here. The neighbors went nuts, so we just backed off. And this part of the river will be a water marsh. So we thought it's so little that you're gaining, I just let it go. So it's just not, we just let it off from the list.
So this is a basic question, which probably everybody else knows, but does the water go this way?
Oh no, that's really good.
This way.
So, you know, we always think rivers flow east and, you know, your head is going east to Mississippi, which it is. Goes through Missouri first. But rivers aren't a straight line. This one dips south to Lindsborg and then it comes up north to Salina and then it goes east. So it turns in, where are we? Am I going? It turns, the water's coming up this way. You see that's Bill Burke? And then it turns in this way. It's flowing this direction.
Okay.
Okay. Is this interesting?
It's fine.
I'm feeling sort of, I'm a little drugged out. Took some medicine. This is the boat drop that's actually handicap accessible. That will be a liquid. So I was just showing some more boat drop stuff. So, okay. Let's see. Oh, lighting. The wonderful news is we had some lighting from the race grant for the trails. Hopefully we can get most of them lit. The one thing that's really been interesting for me, and then this is showing probably plaza lighting, because you know we have a new plaza we're putting on 4th Street. And there'll be some up lighting on trees and everything to create beauty. This is about creating a beautiful space for people. So these are the style of lighting that's going to be used. It's very simple, but it'll be uniform. So that's what we're looking at. There could be maybe some colored lighting on Iron Avenue. I don't know that we'll have enough money to do that on the bridge. I hope so, but I'm not sure. Okay, the furniture. There will be metal benches and there'll be limestone blocks. Do you know at TPAC or Old Bicentennial Center, those limestone blocks that are seating, there'll be some of that on the river also. So there'll be limestone or benches. Even the trash cans have been picked. This is showing, oh, there's your trash can, that's the style. So everything really has been picked, even fencing. What you want for, so it looks uniform and then it looks like it should go together. So all this has been takes a lot of time to do all this, I have to tell you. So one thing that's really interesting that we're getting with this transportation deal is called a multimodal hub or a transportation area. It will be, this is Tony's Pizza Event Center Bicentennial. It'll be somewhere in here, it'll be right there. And it will have a place for bus stop, we'll have EV charging station for cars, and then it will also have, you'll probably have bike rentals there, but it'll also have a place you can fix a bike, it'll have some little place you can actually have tools and stuff. So that's a multimodal hub for connectivity and transportation. To be honest, we put that in there because we're trying to get the grant, but I love it now. And when I was kind of like, oh dang, I guess I have to do that, but anyway. This is showing what would happen at that transportation. It would become a trailhead. Does that make sense? Okay. Oh, and trails. And this, if you haven't been around the YMCA, this is the invasive bush honeysuckle that we just have mulched. We're trying. You should go walk back there. You'll be shocked. You can actually see the riverbed with its trash cussed out. But it's really opened it up. And the friends we have a grant from Real Bank, we're really trying to see if we can attack so that it'll be open. So it's really beautiful back there right now if you want to see what we're doing. It's a half-mile trail. We built it to try to show the example is coming. This is a 10-foot wide trail, supposed to be two-way. And so you can have bikes and, that kind of stuff. What's amazing, every time I'm on there, a half mile to nowhere, and every time I'm on there, there's somebody back there using it, which is great. the Y uses it for Santa and Easter and little kid stuff, and it's awesome. This is just showing the trail map of what's coming in my own time. Trying to hurry. And the trails, remember trails are number one. This is the project of the Corps, which I'm going to kind of skip through this. They're actually doing the riverway itself. That means they're doing the water part. Remember, Race Grant is about people, and this is about the river. They're about environmental uplift. This river was a real river at one time, and they're trying to, it'll never be a free running river. You can shut it down. But they'll be doing all the things to make it a real riverway. Overseeing it, they won't do. They hire out, hopefully locals. Not maybe even locals, but Kansas.
Hey Jane, I do have a question.
Yeah.
And it might be on one of your previous slides. But that trail that goes around behind the Y
Yes.
is supposed to connect to probably a surface street trail. Can you kind of point that out?
You mean where does it connect to?
Yeah, where will it connect and how will it kind of feed into the system? I'm always curious about that because
Okay, so here's your Y. Here's the trail that's done. You see the trail, remember that underpass? And then it goes, she's gonna turn this into a concrete trail, which will be great. And you'll be hooked up into Indian Rock and the levee system. This side, you're gonna connect around this big boy trail. And this is wrong. We found money to go around here. So we're talking about projects we're trying to do because we were really disappointed with what we can't do. Okay, so we've got a gift now. This is where we didn't have a trail. We now have a donor that donated that trail to Earl Bay, God bless them. It's so expensive, and they sponsored all these trails. So then, the one thing we're trying to do on this side, this trail is not, we don't have it. We only have a little tiny piece of it. We're looking for donors to put in the trail instead of the road skinnying down to one lane. Does this make sense? It's a good idea when you don't have any money, but we're trying to find money to put in this trail. I don't know that we will. We have some asked out already, but that's a problem. So when you ask, what are we trying to add? We're trying to add really important things. And the boardwalk, remember that boardwalk I just showed you a little piece of? We're trying to add from here to here. All this could be redeveloped into something special if we have a boardwalk. So that's about commerce and fun, that part. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to skip some of this. This is showing they're taking out the, what do we call it? Waterfall. It was 5 little mini, 2 feet, and the big canoe chutes. Because 100% people remember on the list, they went above it. This is also a fish hazard, that dam. Fish swim up the river, it's a huge fish hazard. So that's why it's going away. Okay, this is showing connection to Lakewood. We did some renderings. The silt is the biggest problem. We're going to put silt in the bottom of the lake where it's not running water. And so there'll be a new hillside. We already have a $2 million gift to sponsor this hillside to put it back into something, plants. And some trails. So that is just showing some of what this could look like out there. It's going to be a whole different park. This is showing the river connected to Lakewood. And I think it will be more like little marshes, but I'm not sure of that. So I was just trying to show how fun that's going to be. You'll be able to go in and out of the lake and the river. This is showing what the Corps does is they make it a river that can support fish life, which means it turns into a river. That means shallows and deep pools, so it's not a ditch. And then your trail map, again, this is showing your trail map. Again, we've taken this out because we're finding money for this. We feel like the plaza would have been sitting there by itself, not connected, and we're all about trying to be connected. So you can see why we're searching for it makes sense, right? Because we want connectivity to the downtown. So this is just showing where the trails will go. This is Lakewood, showing how the trails are going to kind of run and which side of the river it's on. We're going to go through this fast because I'm on vacation. And then this is the south part, just showing you a better detail of what it looks like. And then the north trails. This is gonna be great for this neighborhood. It's gonna have a cute little park, they're gonna put new playground equipment in it. That's where the parks is stepping in and doing other things with it too. And then this little moderate level where Mike's building a house will have a trail that goes, I mean, it's gonna make that neighborhood incredibly special. It's gonna go from struggling to catchy, that's what I think. This is just showing the south trails, how it's gonna be interconnected to trails. This makes sense when I'm just going through this fast. Okay, there we go. That's a quick, I mean, this is a complicated big boy project, and I know, I may not have told it really well, but I think the aesthetics are as important as the numbers, because it gives you a view that it's not just this plain little boring thing. It's going to actually be beautifully designed, interconnected, with a space for anyone and everyone. Earl Bain gave us, I'm not going to even say, the biggest gift they've ever given. And she said the thing that really makes me happy is so democratic. It's for literally everyone and anyone. It doesn't matter who you are. You can be 90 years old and sit on a bench by the riverway and have a great experience, as well as a little kid that really needs to be in a boat because he's high energy and needs to be doing something. And so that's the most appealing part, as well as I keep telling this story. I just was in front of some KW kid. Paul Green told me later, because you can't even imagine how excited these teenagers are for this project. They're most of them already local kids. But that has been my experience with young people. I call young people 40 and under, or 45 and under. That's considered young in my book. But they are in a different place than I am, for sure. And they are always easy to sell. I don't even have to work at it. I don't work at it, I just say trails and they're in. And that's not even with water. So it's been really interesting.
Room 1 is open.
Okay, thank you. I do think it's going to help draw people to want to work and live here if they still struggle with that. And this is a huge lift in quality of life. I just went Pueblo last summer. It's that community has some struggles, but their little riverway, I don't know if anyone's been there, but they've totally redeveloped, it's lifted their downtown. It's incredible what it's done economically for them. So this isn't just about fun. I know exactly what we're doing. We're creating an economic driver for this community that will bring tourism. Can't believe I'm saying that, but I am. And I also think it will bring young people to live and work here. And I think it will draw businesses. In fact, they use it, it's the number one recruiting tool. They use it at the chamber. Renee Dexter told me that to draw people to Salina, and we have a half-mile trail. Imagine when it's finished, what does that actually mean for this community? I think it's going to be a changed community, so if you're older and you don't want to live young people, maybe you think about it, oh dear, it's going to make it a really nice community. It will help uplift this community in a way that I don't think I'm even thinking big enough. When I first started, when they said tourism from Colorado, I laughed and he was so happy. I couldn't hardly speak. He said, you're not thinking big enough. It will be a tourism draw. And he's right. It will. Because think about it. Kansas, most of your rivers are on private land. You can't just float through what you can. I did as a kid always. But this is an accessible riverway that's really easy. And boat drops. I throw my naughty little grandkids out there now because it's slow moving. I remember we had Gabriella on a river in Colorado. She cried through the first boat because she was terrified. And this is not scary. So everyone says, well, it's not Denver. No, of course it's not. It's a Midwestern river as it should be, which has something special in and of itself. It's supposed to be slow moving so that the ducks can raise their babies and they're not thrown away. We could throw our little naughties out there, and you'd have to really work at drowning on this one. You'd have to really work at it. And so that's what I think it's going to do for this community. I really believe that. That's why I'm still here. And we're really almost there. 27, you're going to see construction, and they'll start with bridges. The reason for that, if they build bridges when it's dry, it's less expensive. None of these are inexpensive, but it helps. They can get to it easier. Oh, no. So, there you go. You guys have questions? Because I'll try to answer them.
Give her a hand.
Hey, I have special stickers if you want for your cups. These aren't like pull-off stickers. These will really stick. So don't put them on the glass of your car if you want to take it off later. It's not that kind of sticker. We've just developed a new logo and did a deep dive into the Friends. We have a new website. You can check it out. It's really easy to get around. And we are in a campaign, and if you'd like one of our, this isn't really asking for money, this is kind of giving a quick overview of who the Friends are and why are we who we are. It's a wonderful little charity with, I call them crazies. That's who I work for, big picture thinkers that want to do something really big and have had the tenacity to stick with it. That's who these people are. That's who the charity really is. That's who they are. And I'm fortunate to get to work with them, and it's been hard, but the most interesting thing I've ever done in my life. And when this river runs, it will all this waiting and sacrifice and having people say it's never going to happen, it'll be fun. That'll be fun for all of us that really worked hard to get there. So don't ever tell Martha Tasker she's lucky. Because she goes, are you kidding? This is not luck. This has been hard work. So there you go. That's what I think we've been doing. It's a lot of hard work. So thank you so much. And hope we get in 2030, you'll have a running water riverway. That's what we're hoping. Yes.
Are you on the Match Madness list?
We are. Yeah. We've been working on trying to develop an endowment, because an endowment is sustainability. The Friends isn't going to go away just because we're going to be morphing. We're already morphing. We're morphing into this campaign. Our next move is morphing into how do we create sustainability as well as special events. This will kind of be like SDI for the downtown, but it's for the river, to bring people to the riverway, to bring them into the downtown to spend money. That's what I see the Friends doing. And I also see they'll be doing other campaigns. We're never really going to be finished. There'll be other things that people want on this riverway. And that'll be fun because they'll probably get to do more fun stuff than the infrastructure. Isn't quite as fun as it would be fun if we could do something really fun. But that's not going to be I don't get to do that. The Friends should go on indefinitely as protection. And Dee warns that at best, so this never happens again. We're the outspoken protectors of this riverway, and they always will be. Even though it's a city project, it will still be, I just nip at people's hills. And that's what this organization does, nips enough that that big old city does it. Does that make sense? That's what they do. Also, we have an education outreach. We've hired Ann Hipster. I was developing some of that. She's done a great job. We believe that if we don't tell people what's coming, how will they appreciate it? So we've been in front of kids with our puppets. We had 500 kids. She does all this fish finders. She has so many different things she's doing. She has these history walks with donut. If you like history, their walks are fabulous. So she's doing a lot of outreach to try to get people ready for what's coming. Because we feel that's just as important as us doing this. Because if we don't get people ready for this exciting project, we have to build that love and respect for it so that they quit throwing their cups on the ground. That's my goal. Somehow we'll slow the trash down. So I think that can happen with time, but it's going to take a long time. People don't understand what's happening with their trash. So I don't blame them. It's just what's happened in our culture. Thank you so much, and hey, grab a sticker. I do have a map if you want one of these. Also, you can take it with you. So thank you so much for having me. Really enjoyed talking about my favorite subject. My kids sometimes, the look on their face, I realize, oh wow, I've been through really sick of it. However, they're excited about coming too. So it's my favorite thing to talk about.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.